Jake Morrison looked out the window of his office on Nexus Prime Station. Stars filled the darkness of space. Each light was a world with people living their lives. Some were happy. Some were not. His job was to help make things better for everyone. The human ambassador was 42 years old. He had gray hair at his temples and kind eyes. For 10 years, he had worked on this station. The station was a place where different alien races came to talk and solve problems. It floated in space between many star systems. Lisa Grant walked into his office. She was his helper and friend. Lisa was young with brown hair and always carried a tablet computer. She looked worried today. "Jake, we got another message from Altair 7, she said. "The Zephyrians are asking for help again." Jake turned from the window. The Zephyrians were a peaceful race. They looked like tall, thin people with blue skin and large eyes. They lived on several planets and mined crystals from the ground. These crystals were very valuable. Many machines needed them to work. "What do they say this time?" Jake asked. Lisa read from her tablet. "They say the Caltharians are making them work harder. People are getting sick. Some have died. They want us to help them." The Caltharians were the strongest race in the galaxy. They had big ships and many soldiers. Their leader was Supreme Chancellor Vexthari. He was tall and had gray skin, like metal. His people had conquered many worlds long ago. Now they ruled over many other races. Jake sat down at his desk. On it were pictures of alien children he had helped. There were also reports from different worlds. Most of the reports were about problems with the Caltharian Empire. "The Caltharians say they own Altair 7, Jake said. "They say what happens. There is their business. But people are dying," Lisa said. "That makes it everyone's business." Jake agreed with her. When he first came to work on the station, he learned that the Galactic Council had rules. These rules said that no one should hurt innocent people. Everyone had to follow these rules. Even the Caltharians. But the Caltharians were strong. They had the biggest army. Many council members were afraid to say no to them. The Caltharians used this fear to do what they wanted. Jake picked up a photo from his desk. It showed him with some Zephyrian children. He had visited their world 2 years ago. The children were smiling and holding flowers. They gave him the flowers as a gift. He wondered if those children were still alive. "We have to do something," Jake said. "Set up a meeting with the council." Lisa nodded and started typing on her tablet. Jake walked to his bookshelf. On it were books from many different worlds. He had one book written by Zephyrians. It was about their history. They had never fought a war. They never hurt anyone. They only wanted to live in peace and grow their crystals. 3 days later, Jake stood in the main council chamber. The room was huge and round. Seats were arranged in circles. Each race had their own section. The human section was small. Only 5 people sat there. Other sections had dozens of members. Jake walked to the center of the room. Above him, a hologram showed images from Altair 7. The pictures were not nice to look at. Zephyrians were working in deep mines. They looked tired and sick. Some had bandages on their arms and faces. "Council members," Jake said in a clear voice. "These pictures were taken last week on Altair 7. The Zephyrians are being forced to work too hard. They are not getting enough food or rest. Medical help is not given to injured workers." Vexthari stood up in the Caltharian section. He was much taller than Jake. His voice was deep and cold. "Ambassador Morrison speaks about things he does not understand," Vexthari said. "Altair 7 belongs to the Caltharian Empire. We decide what happens there. The Zephyrians work for us. They are paid for their work." Jake looked around the room. Many alien faces stared back at him. Some looked sad. Others looked scared. Few looked angry, but not at the Keltherians. They were angry at Jake for causing trouble. The Galactic Council Charter says all people have rights, Jake said. This includes the right to safe working conditions, the right to medical care, the right to fair treatment. Rights are earned, Vexthari replied. The Zephyrians lost their rights when they lost the war 300 years ago. They work for us now. That is the way things are. An old alien from a Centauri delegation stood up. His species looked like large insects with many arms. Perhaps we should investigate these claims, he said carefully. Vexthari's eyes turned to look at the Centauri delegate. The old alien quickly sat down and said nothing more. Jake felt his heart beating fast. He knew this was important. If the Council did nothing, more Zephyrians would die. But if he pushed too hard, the Keltherians might get angry. When they got angry, bad things happened. I ask for permission to visit Altair 7, Jake said. I want to see the situation myself. Then I can report back to the Council. The Council President was a being called Elder Thane. His species was very old and wise. They had been in space longer than anyone else. Elder Thane thought for a long moment. The Council will vote on this request, Elder Thane said. The vote was close. 27 races said yes. 24 said no. 3 did not vote. Jake had permission to go to Altair 7. After the meeting, Lisa met Jake in the hallway. She looked excited, but also worried. You did it, she said, but Vexthari looked very angry. Jake nodded. He had seen the look in the Keltherian leaders' eyes. It was not good, but he had to help the Zephyrians. That was his job. That was why he became a diplomat. Get Ben Carter and Dr. Amy Foster, Jake said. Tell them to prepare for a trip to Altair 7. Ben Carter was the head of human security. On the station, he was a big man with strong arms. Dr. Amy Foster was a medical doctor. She was smart and cared about helping sick people. 2 days later, Jake's team was ready to leave. They would take a small diplomatic ship. The trip to Altair 7 would take 4 days. Jake hoped they would arrive in time to help Dot as their ship left Nexus Prime. Jake looked back at the station. He did not know this would be the last time he would see it. He did not know that his trip to help the Zephyrians would change everything. He only knew that people needed help, and he was going to help them. The ship moved into hyperspace. Stars became lines of light. Jake sat in his chair and thought about the Zephyrian children in the photo. He would do everything he could to keep them safe. The diplomatic ship came out of hyperspace near Altair 7. Jake Morrison looked at the planet through the ship's window. It was a brown world with gray clouds. Mining machines had torn up much of the surface. What used to be green forests were now deep holes in the ground. Ben Carter sat at the controls. He was a calm man who had protected diplomats for many years. Jake, I'm seeing Keltherian ships in orbit, he said. 3 of them. They're big warships. Dr. Amy Foster looked up from her medical equipment. She was getting ready to help sick Zephyrians. Are we in danger? She asked. Not yet, Jake said. We have permission from the Council. They can't stop us. But Jake felt worried. The Keltharian ships were moving closer to their small diplomatic vessel. Each warship was 10 times bigger than their ship. The warships had many weapons. Their ship had none. A voice came over the radio. It was cold and harsh. Human ship, this is Keltharian Fleet Commander Zektar. You will leave this system now. Jake picked up the radio. This is Ambassador Morrison. We have Council permission to visit Altair 7. Please check your records. I do not care about Council permission, Zektar said. This is Keltharian space. You are not welcome here. Ben looked at Jake. What do we do? Jake thought for a moment. He could turn around and leave. That would be safe. But the Zephyrians, needed help. If he left now, nothing would change. More people would die. We're going down to the planet, Jake said. They won't fire on a diplomatic ship. Ben nodded, but his face showed he was not sure. The ship moved toward Altair 7. Caltharian warships followed them, but did not attack. They landed at the main Zephyrian city. It was not really a city anymore. Most buildings were broken. The streets were full of dust. Zephyrians walked around with their heads down. They looked tired and scared. A group of Zephyrians came to meet them. Their leader was an old female, named Salandra. She was thin and her blue skin was pale. Her large eyes were sad. "Ambassador Morrison," she said in a quiet voice, "thank you for coming, but you should not be here. The Caltharians are very angry." "I'm here to help," Jake said. "Show me what's happening." Salandra led them through the city. They saw Zephyrian workers loading crystal containers onto trucks. The workers moved slowly. Many had cuts and bruises. Some were coughing. "They make. U.S. works 16 hours every day," Salandra said. "We get very little food. No rest. If someone gets hurt, they must keep working." Dr. Foster knelt beside a young Zephyrian worker. The worker had a bad cut on his arm. It was infected. "This needs medical care right away," she said. "We have no medicine," Salandra said. "The Caltharians took our doctors away. They said doctors make workers lazy." Jake felt anger growing inside him. These people were being treated like slaves. This was wrong. The galaxy had rules against this. They visited the mines next. Jake had never seen anything so terrible. Zephyrians worked in deep tunnels with no safety equipment. The air was full of dust that made people sick. Many workers could barely stand. "How many have died?" Jake asked. "In the last month, 47, Salandra said. "Before that, 32. The numbers get bigger every month." Dr. Foster was taking pictures and writing notes. Ben was recording everything on his camera. This evidence would show the council what was really happening. They spent 2 days on Altair 7. Jake talked to many Zephyrians. All of them told the same story. The Caltharians were working them to death. They had no rights. They could not leave the planet. They could not refuse to work. On the second night, Jake sat in their ship writing his report. The evidence was clear. The Caltharians were breaking many council laws. People were dying because of greed and cruelty. "We have enough," Ben said. "We should leave tomorrow morning." Jake agreed. They had done what they came to do. Now they needed to get back to Nexus Prime and show the council the truth. The next morning, their ship lifted off from Altair 7. Jake looked down at the damaged planet one last time. Soon, he would present his evidence to the council. The Caltharians would have to change how they treated the Zephyrians. But as their ship reached space, something went wrong. Alarms started ringing. Ben looked at his controls with worry. "Jake, we're surrounded," Ben said. "Caltharian ships everywhere." Through the window, Jake could see 6 large warships. They had formed a circle around the small diplomatic vessel. There was no way to escape. The radio crackled. This time, it was not Commander Zektar speaking. It was a voice Jake knew well. Supreme Chancellor Vexthari himself. "Ambassador Morrison," Vexthari said. His voice was calm but dangerous. "You have caused much trouble. You have interfered in Caltharian business." "I was investigating a humanitarian crisis," Jake said. "The council gave me permission." "The council has no power here," Vexthari said. "You will delete all your records. From Altair 7, you will publicly apologize for your interference. You will promise never to return to Caltharian space." Jake looked at Ben and Dr. Foster. Both of them were scared, but they trusted him. He thought about the Zephyrians they had met. He thought about the sick children and dying workers. "No, Jake, said into the radio, "I will not delete anything. I will not apologize. The galaxy needs to know what you're doing to innocent people." There was silence for a long moment. When Vexthari spoke again, his voice was full of anger. "You foolish human. You think your little council can protect you. You think your words matter. I will show you how wrong you are." Jake felt his heart beating fast. He knew they were in great danger, but he could not give in. If he did, the Zephyrians would continue to suffer. More would die. "The Council will investigate what happens here," Jake said. "The galaxy is watching." Vexthari laughed. It was a cold sound that made Jake's skin crawl. "The galaxy will see what happens to those who challenge the Caltharian Empire," Vexthari said. "Open fire." Jake had time for one last thought. He hoped his evidence would reach the Council somehow. He hoped someone would remember the Zephyrians and help them. The Caltharian warships fired their weapons all at once. The diplomatic ship disappeared in a ball of bright light. Jake Morrison, Ben Carter, and Dr. Amy Foster died instantly. With them died any hope for peace between humans and the Caltharian Empire far away on Nexus Prime. Lisa Grant was waiting for their return. She did not know yet that her friends were gone. She did not know that everything was about to change. The Caltharians had just made the biggest mistake in their long history. They had killed a human diplomat who was only trying to help others. War was coming. Lisa Grant was working at her desk when the emergency message came through. She looked at her computer screen and her face went white. The words were simple but terrible. Diplomatic mission destroyed. No survivors. She ran to the communication center on Nexus Prime. Other humans were already there. Everyone was talking at once. Some were crying. Others looked angry. The news was spreading fast through the station. Elder Thane called an emergency council meeting. Lisa sat in the human section, but she felt very alone. Jake's chair was empty. Ben and Dr. Foster would never come back. The Caltharians had killed them all. Supreme Chancellor Vexthari stood before the council. He looked calm and confident. "The human ship was armed," he said. "They fired on our vessels first. We defended ourselves." Lisa jumped to her feet. "That's a lie," she shouted. "Our ship had no weapons. They were diplomats trying to help people." "You have no proof," Vexthari said. "Your people were spies. They were trying to cause rebellion in our territory." Elder Thane raised his hand for silence. "The Council will investigate this matter," he said. "Until then, we ask for calm from all parties." But Lisa knew the truth would not matter. The Council was afraid of the Caltharians. They would investigate for months and find nothing. Jake had died for nothing. That night, Lisa sat in Jake's old office. She looked at the pictures on his desk. The smiling Zephyrian children seemed to be asking her for help. She picked up her tablet and started copying all of Jake's files. She copied everything about Altair 7 and the Caltharian crimes. The next morning, Caltharian soldiers came to the human section. They said they were there to collect evidence. But Lisa knew they wanted to destroy anything that made them look bad. "Where are Morrison's files?" asked the Caltharian officer. "The Council has them," Lisa lied. "For the investigation?" The officer looked at her with suspicious eyes. "You will give us access to all human computers." "I need to ask my government first," Lisa said. That evening, Lisa knew she was in danger. She saw Caltharian soldiers watching her. They followed her everywhere she went. She had to get Jake's evidence to Earth. But how? She remembered something. Jake once told her, "When diplomacy fails, sometimes you have to break the rules to do what's right." Lisa waited until late at night. The station was quiet. Most people were sleeping. She snuck to the transport bay where small ships were kept. She found a fast courier ship that could reach human space. But as she was copying the files to the ship's computer, someone grabbed her arm. It was a Keltharian soldier. "You are under arrest for theft of diplomatic materials," he said. Lisa had been caught. But she was not going to give up. She hit the soldier with her tablet and ran. Alarms started ringing all over the station. More soldiers were coming. She ran through the corridors of Nexus Prime. Her heart was beating fast. She could hear heavy footsteps behind her. The Keltharians were chasing her. Lisa reached the transport bay just as the first soldiers arrived. She jumped into the courier ship and started the engines. The ship lifted off, just as laser bolts hit the floor where she had been standing. The small ship raced away from Nexus Prime toward human space. Behind her, Keltharian warships were starting to follow. But the courier ship was fast and had a good head start. 4 days later, Lisa's ship arrived at Earth. She was exhausted and scared, but she had made it. The files were safe. Jake's evidence would not be lost. President Helen Brooks was a strong woman with gray hair and serious eyes. She had been a military officer before becoming president. She believed in peace, but she also believed in protecting innocent people. Lisa sat in the president's office and told her everything. She showed her the pictures from Altair 7. She played the recordings of dying Zephyrians. She explained how Jake had been murdered for trying to help. President Brooks watched everything in silence. Her face got harder with each piece of evidence. When Lisa finished, the president stood up and walked to the window. "How long have we been trying to work with the Galactic Council?" President Brooks asked. 50 years, Lisa said. 50 years of compromise. 50 years of trying to be nice to people who don't care about right and wrong. The president turned around. Her eyes were full of anger. No more. The next day, President Brooks spoke to the people of Earth. His speech was broadcast to every human colony in space. Billions of people watched as their president told them about Jake Morrison's murder. "For 50 years, we have tried to work within the system," President Brooks said. "We believed that talking and voting would solve problems. We were wrong. Some people only understand force." She paused and looked directly into the camera. "Today, I am ordering the withdrawal of all human representatives from the Galactic Council. We will no longer be part of a system that protects murderers and ignores victims. I am also activating Operation Righteous Storm. For 50 years, we have been building ships and training soldiers while working for peace. We hoped we would never need them. That hope is dead." All across human space, military bases came alive. Ships that had been hidden in secret locations powered up their engines. Soldiers who had trained in secret prepared for war. Admiral Rick Stone stood on the bridge of the EDF Liberty, the most powerful ship ever built by humans. He was a tall man with scars on his face from old battles. He had been waiting for this day for many years. "All ships, this is Admiral Stone," he said, into his communicator. "Operation Righteous Storm is now active. Our mission is simple. We will free every slave, protect every innocent, and make the Keltharians pay for what they did to our people." Captain Susan Hayes commanded a group of fast attack ships. She had been Jake Morrison's friend for many years. When she heard about his death, she volunteered to lead the first strike. "Admiral, this is Captain Hayes," she said. "Strike Group Alpha is ready. We're heading for Grimlock Station." Grimlock Station was a massive Keltharian fortress in space. It protected one of their most important systems. It was also where they kept thousands of alien slaves working in terrible conditions. "Remember," Admiral Stone said, "we're not here to conquer. We're here to liberate, save the innocents, make the oppressors pay." The human fleet moved through space like a storm of justice. For 50 years, they had been patient. They had tried to solve problems with words. Now they would solve them with action. Supreme Chancellor Vexthari received reports of human ships moving toward Keltharian space. He laughed. Primitive humans think they can fight us. Send the Third Fleet to destroy them. But Vextari did not understand what he was facing. The humans were not the same people who had joined the Council 50 years ago. They had learned. They had prepared. They were angry. The war for the galaxy was about to begin. The battle for Grimlock Station was about to begin. Captain Susan Hayes looked at the massive Caltharian fortress through her ship's window. It was bigger than a city and covered with weapons. Around it floated dozens of enemy warships. All ships. "This is Captain Hayes," she said into her radio. "Remember why we're here. Jake Morrison died trying to help innocent people. Today, we finish what he started." The Caltharian fleet commander was confident. He had 3 times as many ships as the humans. His vessels were bigger and had more weapons. He expected an easy victory, but when the battle started, everything went wrong for the Caltharians. The human ships moved faster than anything they had ever seen. Human weapons changed and adapted during the fight. Every time the Caltharians thought they understood human tactics, the humans did something new. Captain Hayes led her ships between the giant Caltharian vessels. Her ship was small but quick. Caltharian weapons could not hit her, but her weapons found their targets every time. "This is impossible," said the Caltharian commander. "How are they moving so fast?" His question was answered when human Marines landed on Grimlock Station. Colonel Dan Murphy led the assault team. They broke through the station's defenses in minutes. The Caltharians inside were not prepared for human soldiers who fought with such determination. The Marines found thousands of alien prisoners in the lower levels of the station. There were Zephyrians, Centaurians, Nereidans, and many other species. All of them were thin and sick from working as slaves. "You're free," Colonel Murphy told them in their own languages. "The humans have come to help you." One old Zephyrian looked at him with wonder. "The humans? The same people who sent Ambassador Morrison?" "Yes," Murphy said. "He died trying to help you. We will not let his death be meaningless." Word of thee. Human victory at Grimlock Station spread across the galaxy in hours. On every world controlled by the Caltharians, slave workers heard the news. The humans were fighting for freedom. The humans were winning. On Altair 7, the Zephyrians stopped working. Cylindra, the old leader Jake had met, stood before her people. "Ambassador Morrison died for us," she said. "The humans are fighting for us. We will not work for our oppressors anymore." The Caltharian guards tried to force them back to work, but the Zephyrians refused. They destroyed the mining equipment. Instead of using it, other slave worlds did the same thing. The Caltharian Empire was falling apart from the inside. Supreme Chancellor Vextari watched reports coming in from across his empire. Everywhere, his forces were losing. The humans were not just winning battles. They were turning his own subjects against him. "Send the entire fleet to Earth," he ordered. "We will destroy their homeworld. That will end this rebellion." But Admiral Rick Stone was ready for this move. The main human fleet waited near Earth. When the Caltharian armada arrived, they found not just human ships, but vessels from dozens of freed species. "This is Admiral Stone of the Free Galactic Alliance," he broadcast to the Caltharian fleet. "You are not welcome in this system. Leave now or face the consequences." Vextari himself commanded the Caltharian fleet. His flagship was the largest warship ever built. It had enough weapons to destroy a planet. "Foolish humans," Vextari said. "Today your species dies." The final battle began near Earth's moon. Ships from both sides filled space with weapons fire. But this time, the Caltharians faced something they had never seen before. The freed species fought together as one force. Zephyrian ships worked with human vessels. Centauran fighters protected Nereidan cruisers. Captain Hayes found herself fighting alongside Silandra, who now commanded a group of Zephyrian ships. The old alien leader had learned to fight to protect her people. For Ambassador Morrison, Silandra said over the radio. For Jake, Hayes replied, the battle was fierce, but the outcome was clear. The alliance of free species was stronger than the Keltharian Empire. One by one, Keltharian ships were destroyed or surrendered. Vex Theres' flagship was the last ship fighting. It was surrounded, but still dangerous. Admiral Stone's ship moved close to it. Surrender now, Stone broadcast. Your empire is finished. Never, Vextari replied. I am Supreme Chancellor. I bow to no one. Captain Hayes and Colonel Murphy led a boarding party to Vexthari's ship. They fought through corridors filled with desperate Keltharian soldiers. Finally, they reached the bridge where Vexthari waited. The Supreme Chancellor was tall and proud, even in defeat. He held a weapon in his hand, but did not fire it. You have destroyed order in the galaxy, he said. Without Keltharian rule, there will be chaos. Captain Hayes pulled out a small photo. It showed Jake Morrison with some Zephyrian children. They were smiling and holding flowers. You killed a good man, Hayes said quietly. He spent his life trying to help others. You murdered him because he cared about innocent people. One human. Diplomat, Vexthari said. Was that worth a war? Yes, Hayes said. It was worth everything. Vexthari was taken prisoner. His empire was broken. Across the galaxy, species that had been slaves for centuries were free. 6 months later, Lisa. Grant stood before a new council on Nexus Prime. But this council was different. Every species had an equal voice. No one could dominate the others. Lisa was now the first Secretary General of the Free Galactic Alliance. In her office, she kept Jake Morrison's old desk. On it was the photo of him with the Zephyrian children. President Brooks, now older but still strong, came to visit the memorial they built for Jake. It was a simple monument with his name and the names of Ben Carter and Dr. Amy Foster. Peace is not the absence of conflict, President Brooks read from the memorial plaque. Peace is the presence of justice. Silandra stood beside her. The old Zephyrian was healthy now. Her people were free and happy. Ambassador Morrison believed words could solve any problem, Silandra said. But sometimes you must fight for what is right. Jake would be proud, President Brooks said. The galaxy is free because he was willing to die for what he believed. Children from many different species played near the memorial. Human children played with Zephyrian children. Centaurian young ones flew with Nereidan swimmers. They all lived together in peace. Lisa watched them play and smiled. Jake had always said that the future belonged to the children. Now they had a future worth living. The Empire had broken the peace. Jake Morrison had brought fury in response. But from that fury came something better than what existed before. The galaxy had learned that some things are worth fighting for. Freedom is one of them. Justice is another. Jake Morrison was gone, but his dream lived on. The galaxy was free, and it would stay free. The humans and their allies would make sure of that. They had learned that sometimes the greatest kindness requires the greatest strength. The war was over. The peace that followed was real.